Welcome back to the Small Business Show, where you get to hear the journey, find the challenge, and create solutions. I'm your host, Lori Brooks, and I thank you so much for joining me today. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. This week, I have swapped out the normal studio to honor the brand new college grad in our family. Our daughter graduated from Mass Art last week with honors as a double major in both painting and art history. So I thought we would honor that and include her art in the show this week. And this week, I have the opportunity to chat with Porsché Mysticque Steele, an award-winning book coach, TEDx speaker, author, and CEO of Mystique Rose Publishing Services. Portia is one of the youngest Black female self-publishing experts. She helps high-performing CEOs combine their story and wisdom to publish highly impactful books that generate income, influence, and expand their thought leadership. When she's not publishing books, Portia tutors middle and high school students on creative and essay writing. She's been featured in multiple publications, including Business Insider, CEO Weekly, U.S. Reporter, and the Small Business with Lori Brooks show, amongst many others. Portia, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Lori. I'm super happy to be here.
And I am super excited to have you. I can't wait to dive into your entrepreneurial journey. But before we do, I want to rewind the clock. Let's go back to the days of, say, junior high or high school. Think about a time when an aunt, an uncle, or maybe even a mentor in school would have asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Portia, what
Mm.
was your answer to that question back then?
Junior high, the answer would have been an actress because that was around the time where I found myself loving to be on stage. So I was a theater kid. So I wanted to be in all the plays, all the musicals, because I was convinced that your girl could sing. I can't, but I thought I could. So I knew I was good at acting and I was great at dancing and I wanted to be that triple threat. So I was like, listen, I'm going to be that. I'm going to sing, I'm going to act, I'm going to dance, I'm going to be able to do all three and I'm just going to kill it in the game. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh is where they birth all of the movie stars and stuff like that. And then we hop and skip to California. But I just felt like, yeah, this is my thing. This is what I wanted. That quickly changed. It did not stay that way. But yeah, at the time, I was in several different plays and I was just loving the dream of being Hollywood actress.
It's so funny how when we're kids, we start off with this like thought process of who we want to be and what we want to do. And then as you get older, you kind of start seeing, okay, these are my true strengths. This is really where I lie. This is really what
Mhm.
gets me going in the day. So I'm curious, after you decided, okay, maybe I'm not necessarily going to be that triple threat, which by the way, you're still on TV right now, just to let you know. So
That part.
still manifest the TV in there, you know? I mean, so once you decided that wasn't necessarily the path that you were going to go, what do
Mhm.
you feel like were some of the steps or some of the moments in your life that introduced the thought process of becoming an entrepreneur?
I think my desire for becoming an entrepreneur started when I was a child. So even though I had this dream of being an actress, I was a huge fan of anything business related. I think it all started
Mm.
when I remember being like 3 years old. And my uncle, my mom's uncle, he's my great uncle, invited my father to some meeting. And I don't know what happened, but I remember being in the basement of somebody's home and there were these men sitting at a table, and they all had folders and notebooks and pens, and somebody had a tape recorder. And I remember being like 3 or 4 years old thinking, wow, that looks so cool. Like, I just wanted to be at the table. And then it was after that I started playing business. I would force my little brother to be my secretary, and I would call on the phone and be like, hold all my calls. We would just play business all the time. And I just did that as a kid. No, eventually, I started to fall in love with the arts because I went to a program school that allowed me to explore that stuff. But
Mhm.
my love for, or my entrepreneurial spirit has always been there. And my father was a natural born hustler. So I saw he would come up with all these business plans and like try to execute them. And unfortunately, it never panned out. He wasn't as ambitious as I was. So it only got but so far. So I started to see how, like, what would happen if we actually took these business plans much further? Like, what could we actually create? And it was just, it's always been with me to want to run my own business, to want to be a boss. Like, I had two favorite movies growing up. The Secret to My Success, starring Michael J. Fox. Love
Yep.
that movie. And Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, right? So in that movie, Christina Applegate is like,
I love
she
it.
becomes the boss babe, right? She becomes that
Yes.
woman where, she's going to work and she's filling out forms and she's making phone calls. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to be me one day. I'm going to be the boss, telling people what to do. The idea of petty cash was so exciting to me. So it was like, I knew at some point I was going to be in the entrepreneurial space.
I love that. What sparked that desire for me was actually watching Inspector Gadget.
Oh,
And I say it all the time. It's watching Penny with her little like computer thing. Thanks to Steve Jobs, I can now do exactly that, like walk around with my little computer, take care of whatever I need to, whatever. So I understand that feeling of something that sparks that idea early, early, early on that you don't really recognize is the entrepreneurial bug hitting you. But you have times later on in life to reflect back as to, what those pieces were that kind of inspire the journey. So I am
absolutely.
curious. You have now become a book publisher. You congratulations. I
Thank
am
you.
curious. Of course, of course. What were some of the first steps or the first moments for you that you recognized, okay, this is the path. This is what I want. This is what's driving me. This is what's pulling me. What was that moment for you? What did that feel like? What was occurring in life? What made you
Yeah.
recognize that that was it?
It was quite interesting. I would say that I kind of stumbled into the independent publishing space. So at that time, my life was quite different from my childhood. So I
Mhm,
found myself in a situation where my father basically controlled our entire household. So like we weren't
mhm,
allowed to date, we weren't allowed to get a job. There was so much that we couldn't do. And I found myself just kind of going online while the rest of the house was sleeping, and I was just reading books, right? And these
mhm.
were completely unpublished works. These are things that were published on like Wattpad or Goodreads.
Mm,
And at that time, I was also falling in love with a man who I had met online, and it was great. And so as I was reading these stories about the world that I basically knew nothing about, and I'm falling in love with this amazing man, he had said to me, well, you're doing this thing. Have you considered, doing it for a fee, like to get paid? And I was like, I'm reading these works and I'm editing them for free. I
mhm,
could get paid. So I went and I created an Upwork profile and I realized, holy crap, people do pay money for this. And I had
mhm,
made about 14,000 that first year. And as I fell deeper and deeper in love with him and I'm earning money on the side, I knew that, okay, this is about to culminate into something. So in 2019, my sister and I basically escaped that situation and started our lives. And so I ended up going to see that man who he happened to live in Nigeria. And I was going to go see him in person. We were dating online for 5 years. And when I got there, he proposed to me. I said yes. And we got married. And I started my life with him in Nigeria. And in that time, I was still a freelance editor. So the hustle was real. But I knew I
wow,
wanted something more, right?
mhm,
And I had one client, I had edited his book, and he was like, well, can you help me self-publish? And I flat out told him, no, I cannot, because I don't know how to do it. But he said, well, if you're willing to learn, I'm willing to wait for you. Because if you can learn how to do it, I want you to do it because I don't want anybody else touching the book. I said, oh, say less. So I took the time. I learned the industry. I learned what it actually takes to self-publish a book, the gaps that people are missing, the issues that people have, the things that people don't know, the things that people are doing wrong. And I was like,
Mhm,
there is a way for us to do this and to do this right. And
mhm,
so I remember having a sit down with a conversation with my husband, and I was like, I think I want to turn this into a business. Like I want to go big. I don't want to freelance anymore. I'm tired of the hustle. Like I want
mhm.
a company. I want to be that businesswoman that I'd always imagined. And he was like, go for it. And what I loved about that was that I finally, for the first time in my life, I had that partner that was by my side. He was my ride or die and was like, whatever you want to do, I got your back. I'm gonna do my best to keep you on the path, but I'm gonna support you. And I was like, yay, like let's just do it, let's do it. And so I founded the company. I had some freelancer friends who were crazy enough to join me in the starting of Mystique Rose Publishing. And so we all just came together and we created this company where we each provide these individual services to give an independent author everything they need to produce an awesome book. And it was really the conversation that I had with that author who gave me time to learn, and the conversation that I had with my husband that made me realize this is it. I literally have everything I need for this to be successful. And that's how I know I'm meant to do it.
That's beautiful. First of all, I love the love story that's written within there. That is so adorable and so beautiful that there was this inspiration that was sparked. You took the chance, you took the leap. You took the time to learn and then had faith in yourself to actually take action and make those thought processes that were kind of brewing and kind of simmering in the background and turn those into reality. So, thank you for sharing that story. That is so beautiful.
Thank you
Definitely.
so much.
Of course. So you are now the proud founder and CEO of Mystique Rose Publishing. So
Mhm.
share with us all about your publishing company, where you are today, and what you're looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing journey. We had a couple of pivots, but where we are today is where my heart is, and that's working with business owners. So I realized that I have this obsession, if you will, with thought leadership, right? I love the idea of being somebody who has an innovative way of thinking, doing, or being, and then being able to share that innovation with other people. That has always been incredible to me. And so I realized that thought leaders who are business owners are perfectly positioned to create a book that generates real impact. And I'm not just talking about the memoirs or, oh, I got a story in me and I just want to tell it. Like, I
Mhm,
get it. And those are great, but those don't shift the world. Those don't move a nation. It's the
mhm,
thought leaders and the business owners who have an innovative way of thinking, doing, or being and can turn it into a book and then send that thought leadership flying. And when I realized that that really was my passion, I pivoted Mystique Rose to only serve those business owners who want to establish their thought leadership. And so since we began, we worked on over 100 book projects, and it has been amazing. And even my own book was my foray into thought leadership. But now I'm able to start with book coaching, coming up with the idea for the book and where their thought leadership lies, writing the book, and then producing it and launching it to get them much further. So if that means getting them on the TEDx stage, getting them paid speaking engagements, getting them on the podcast, all the things that help really build somebody's thought leadership, you can do with a book. And so I've put in a lot of time, money, and effort to build out the strategies that we have in place to make that happen.
that is absolutely beautiful. And I can't wait to work with you. So we will be getting there very soon. I'm very excited to work with you, and I'm super excited about all that you guys have accomplished. I'm curious, now that you're here, you recognize that thought leadership is the space that you want to serve.
Mhm.
If you could go back, say 10, 15 years and tell yourself one thing, what do you think that would be?
10 to 15 years ago, I was 21. 10 years ago, I was 21. Before that, I wasn't doing nothing with my life. I was 21 at 21. So 21 would have been just before I met my husband, which would have been one of the darkest times in my life. And
Mhm,
I think the thing that I would have told myself at the time was something that God had actually already told me, which is just endure. If you can just hold on just one more year, your knight in shining armor will be there. Everything is going to change for you. It's going to be okay. And I think that's so huge for me to know that where you are in that moment is not where it ends, and there's
mhm,
so much on the other side. You just got to get through this year. You just got to get through today or through this week, and I think that would have brought a smile to my face and been like, okay, we can do this. So I would have, yeah, I definitely would have told myself, just endure, hold on, it's gonna be okay because you're gonna become everything you've envisioned for yourself.
I understand wholly. In fact, a girlfriend of mine told me about 15 years ago, you know, it gets greater later. And I held on to those words. And that it's funny you said what you just said, because that's so true. And I held on to those words like it's gonna get greater later. It's gonna get greater later. And you know what? It did. So I
Did.
appreciate you sharing that.
Thank
Definitely.
you.
So if you had a magic wand and could say change anything at all in the publishing world, what do you feel like you would change?
Ooh, change anything in the publishing world. Okay, that's a broad spectrum. Okay, so there's the entire publishing, like traditional publishing versus self-publishing, or like, can I
Let's
just do
go with
self-publishing?
self-publishing. Let's go with self-publishing.
Self-publishing. I would change this notion that self-publishing is somehow synonymous with DIY. A lot of
Mm,
people think if I'm going to independently publish my book, it means that I have to do it by myself.
hmm
And you don't, and you're not supposed to. So that idea that people say, oh, I got to do this on my own starts from when they even put pen to paper. And that's why it takes so long for people to get started. People will spend like 5, 10 years just to get that first book written because they
hmm
think, oh, I have to write it myself first, then I'll go get help, then I'll get an editor, then
hmm
I'll get a book coach. That is a lie. If I had a magic wand, I would just wipe that out of everybody's minds and say you are supposed to get help before you start writing.
You should have waved that wand a long time ago, Portia, because I needed you, woman.
Sorry, I didn't know.
Goodness.
Even, I did the whole thing. Bippity boppity, the whole shebang.
Well, we're going to get the word out, and I hope that helps us wave that wand so there are other authors out there who don't have to suffer through and who will come to you for the assistance that they truly need. Portia, you've been outstanding, and I truly appreciate you joining me today. Please share the best way for our viewers to reach you.
Yeah, you can definitely go to my website, Porsche, spelled like the car, Steele, Steele.com. You can check out what I do there. But if you are ready to take action, I would say DM me the word book, BOOK, to 901-205-9804. Send you a link so you can have that free one-on-one call with me.
Perfect. That is excellent. And I will be sure to include that on the show notes page. Portia, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lori. This was amazing.